Right, I think we're going to make a start, everyone. Are you ready, Graham and Becky? Shall we get the show on the road?
Yep, let's do this.
Excellent. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is well. Thank you for registering and logging on to MHA Larkin Gown's presentation this morning. Many of you, I'm sure, will remember our potentially famous business breakfasts. Well, today it's our business brunch and it's self-catering, unfortunately. My name is Ian Fitch. I'm a corporate partner based in our Ipswich office. And like you, I'm looking forward to today's presentation on business resilience and also the opportunity to network with like-minded people. This will be the first time we've done real networking virtually. So at the end of today, we'd love to hear your feedback as how it went and what you thought. Just remember, we are on a platform where if you turn your camera on and your mic on, we can hear and see you. And although that might be fun and interesting, it may be not what you want at this time. Of course, when we're in the breakout rooms, please feel free to turn your camera and mic on, otherwise it might be pretty dull. Hope everyone is comfortable with that. So today's brunch is on business resilience. And the presentation will be sharply, insightfully, and professionally delivered by Becky Ames and Graham Mummery. Becky, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Ian. Good morning, everyone. I'm really well, thank you.
Excellent. And Becky, for those people who don't know what you do in the firm, just give us a brief description.
Okay, so I'm based in the Ipswich office with Ian and Graham, and I lead the business and private team there, where we work with owner-managed businesses, dealing with all aspects of their business, with a real focus on helping them grow.
Excellent, good stuff, Becky. And a new face and a new name for MHA Larkin Gown, Graham Mummery. During lockdown, we were really pleased to appoint Graham as a partner in our Ipswich office. And Graham, good morning. What's it like to be part of the team?
Morning, Ian. It's fantastic. Delighted to be here.
Excellent.
Can't wait to get my first business brunch under my belt.
Brilliant. And what are you looking forward to most about your new role?
I think working with all the growing and exciting businesses in and around Suffolk, I think there's a huge opportunity for us to advise and getting out into the market. That's what I'm here for.
Excellent. That's fantastic. It's good to have you on board, Graham. As always, if you'd like to tweet during this presentation, please do so. Hashtag BBGrowth. And at the end of the week, the best tweet will win a Larkin Gown coffee mug and a coffee from Paddy and Scott. So please get those phones out and tweet hashtag BBGrowth and let us know what you think. Right. On the screen, you have the running order, fairly self-explanatory. As we say at these events, we are not the experts, we are just facilitators. You, the audience, are indeed the experts, and all we encourage is for you to sit back, give yourself some time, and think about your business and think about the future. And all we ask this morning is if you go away with one thing that you'll do differently, then you will have made our mornings. After the main presentation, you can see at 10:40, with the wonder of technology, there will be breakout rooms. It will be seamless, and just like we have roundtable discussions at our physical breakfasts, you'll go into a breakout room with a few other people and have an opportunity to discuss today's topics and share views and ideas. When you do go into the breakout room, it'd be great if you could nominate a spokesperson and for that person to remember the room number they're in. Because when you come out, I will go round the rooms and ask for the best comment, suggestion or idea coming out of those rooms. So for example, when asking for feedback, I will say, can I speak to the spokesperson for room 1? Now, obviously, that's an opportunity for that individual to turn their camera and mic on and let us know what they think. Now, we'll remind you, during the presentation how it all works. It will be fine. and I'm quite excited by it. We will then record those comments and then share them with you on email afterwards, so you have some takeaways, and also you can share them with colleagues as well. Right, the next slide is a sort of checklist for me to ensure that I have covered everything. Renaming yourself. We understand lots of you might log on, on someone else's computer, and the name showing on the screen might not be the name that you wish to show everyone. So please, you have the opportunity. If you want to be Tom Cruise this morning, please, you can change your name. If you'd like to put your company name as well, you can do that. That might be really helpful in the breakout groups. Of course, today's presentation doesn't happen by itself. We are supported by a fantastic business development team. So a big shout out to Fran, Amy and Kerry Ann, who have made this possible. As you can see, they're in the background today. And if there's a booming voice coming over where we've missed something, then that's our BD team. But thank you very much, everyone. And it's great that we've got this presentation up and running. Two final points. To improve your experience of today's events, we recommend you set to speaker view. The event is being recorded in the main room. The breakout groups are not being recorded. So you can say what you want in there, and that will be private. Right, Becky, Graham, I think I've done the hard miles. I don't think I've missed anything so far.
Oh, you're looking good.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Right, so I think we're ready to go with the main event, business resilience. Becky, Graham and myself are business owners like many of you, so we do understand the challenges at this time. The headlines: unemployment, the worst recession ever, Brexit, deal or no deal, almost the perfect storm. So we need to be resilient to weather that storm. We need to future-proof our business. We need to look at every angle, and we need time to think about the future. Graham came up with this great quote for me. Economic downturns are impossible to predict and sure as sunrise. Build resilience now, because when the sun comes up, you'll better be moving. I think that really does set us up nicely. So at that time, I'm going to hand over to Becky.
Thanks, Ian. So before we think about where we want to be as a business, it's important to recognise how resilient we are now. And we can then decide where we need to invest time, money and energy to best position ourselves to ride those waves of uncertainty. We know from not only ourselves, but all our clients, that we've had to adapt to new ways of doing things, lots of which have gone well and have seen improvements in our business. So first of all, the tech. We found that our teams embraced the technology when we had to, where before perhaps they hadn't done. And we can see that that will change how we work going forwards. Then there's flexible working, of course. Many of us moved to working from home immediately, just overnight. It had to happen, didn't it? And we recognise that going forwards, that flexibility in how we work will continue. And I think we will need to offer that flexibility to really attract and retain the best talent to our business, particularly with the younger generations who are going to demand that even more. Decision making, I think that improved in a lot of ways because we had to make decisions quickly. Often we can spend an awful lot of time thinking and talking about things, but we had to just get on with it. We had to make those decisions. And that's a really important lesson, I think, that we can take forward in our business. And probably most importantly of all, communication. We had to learn to manage communication in a completely different way, both internally and external to our business, because we weren't all physically together and we had to adopt new ways. And I think in many ways we've communicated more. We've had to build those lines of communication and we've utilised different methods to do so. Now, those of us who might feel less resilient probably faced some of the following challenges. So I think long-term strategic thinking or planning has been more difficult because short-term task-based projects have probably been easier to manage, but it's taking that time out of the business to think strategically that is more challenging when we're not all together and able to brainstorm. There have been problems with technology, fingers crossed for today. We've had to invest in training so that we all know how to use the new tech efficiently. We might have needed to also invest in in the technical equipment itself. And simply because we had the capability didn't mean that we were using it properly. It's been a steep learning curve for a lot of people. Communication has brought challenges as well. Informal communication just can't happen in the same way if we're not all together in the office or workplace. Those water cooler moments that we all refer to, they have been lost. You simply can't walk through the office and catch up with various people quite as easily when we're all working from home. And those ideas and learning, the experiences that we have, they're far more difficult to share when we're working remotely. And we've certainly seen that, particularly for our trainees. You know, how do you learn when you're not sitting with people and just learning by osmosis, if you like? That's really important and something that we've considered certainly in trying to get people back to working together in the office. Because that's so important, because we need to collaborate and thrive and innovate, and getting into that mindset is much more of a challenge when you're stuck behind a screen at home. So we want to get to a point where we are resilient and our people are happy and really the tech works. That's the ideal, isn't it? But what's important is to think about what would make you as resilient as possible. If you're not where you want to be in terms of resilience, now is the time to act.
Thanks, Becky. So we've come up with some pillars of resilience here that we think would prop up a resilient, sustainable business. And pillars of resilience isn't a new idea, but these are what we believe businesses in and around Suffolk, and those of you attending today's brunch, should be thinking about and should be having a strategy for each of these areas that you can implement during the course of the next few months to ensure you're as resilient as possible. Sorry, there you go, Becky.
That's yours.
Our first pillar is having a plan. So what does an uncertain future look like? What different scenarios can we see playing out? How flexible can you be as a business to pivot into other revenue streams? What investments do you need to make to enable this to happen? We've seen that businesses can execute or change a plan in times of adversity. How much better would it be if we could deliver those plans while we're in control? Historically, we've seen businesses be rather conservative in their planning. Throwing back to the quote we saw earlier, we saw that the report that came from, those businesses that had a bold plan in place fared far better than their competitors when coming out of a downturn. And what do we mean by a plan? Well, really, all we're talking about is something you can use to communicate your thoughts to various stakeholders. You might not have had a plan before, but we've seen many over the last few months. Some of the worst have been overly complex, and some of the best fit on half a side of A4. And what does your plan need? Well, it will need to encompass long-term, but it also needs to be flexible enough for the medium and the short term, given when we've been looking at changes in legislation over the last few months. These changes have been coming daily or hourly, so being able to flex your plan to respond to those different challenges is essential. It will also need to contain thoughts about different income streams and what impact a downturn might have on each of these. The basis of any good plan is the ability to manage cash flow. As we all know and have discovered over the last few months, cash really is king. Identifying the controllable costs, looking at cash outflows, limit these where you can, and review terms, renegotiate terms with your suppliers. Creating a safety buffer, so reducing debt down to acceptable levels, entering periods of uncertainty with more financial flexibility and more headroom. And cutting costs ahead of the curve, preparing earlier, moving faster, reviewing all those operating costs, becoming leaner. Finally, the last area to look at potentially for cash flow is reviewing your supply chain. Is it flexible enough to meet your demands? Having this flexible plan is incredibly beneficial. You may have had a cash flow before, perhaps forecasting monthly. During the recent pandemic, you had to flex it to make it work more short term. Think about how you can make your forecasting systems as flexible as possible, and can you anticipate issues before they arise? It also needs to work for you and your business. As I said before, plans can be overcomplicated, But this doesn't make them better. You and your teams need to be able to use them and understand them. And use the tools you have available, for example, cloud accounting, asking your advisor for assistance. Make sure you have the right people around you to deliver on this plan, both internally and externally. During the COVID period, people who in your organisation stood up and showed what they're made of, who struggled. Empower your teams to deliver on these plans and have the confidence that they can do so. Your leadership team must be agile and resilient, able to make decisions quickly in an atmosphere of uncertainty and stress.
Thanks, Graham. So our second pillar is communication. And as I've already alluded to, I think it's probably one of the most important things that we have discovered. Really, we need to get right and different ways of doing it. So everyone has said how important communication is, both in our family circumstances and our business circumstances. But in our business, it needs to be with all our stakeholders. So your customers, your suppliers, your bank, HMRC, certainly your accountant, your shareholders, but most importantly, our staff. And we need to maintain those good habits that we formed and take those through to the good times as well as the not so good. So where you have really engaged with perhaps those external shareholders in some way, say your bank, can we continue that really positive relationship that's going to see you through to more positive times? It's important to choose how you communicate your messaging as well. You need to ask yourself, how will your statement have the most impact? So, for example, social media played a huge part in how we communicated with customers and clients, for example, particularly for big businesses who wanted to get statements out there, keeping their customers informed on whether they were able to open, what delays they may be experiencing, etc. But you certainly wouldn't communicate with your teams in the same way. I think it's choosing your method to suit your audience, isn't it? It's like all communication. It needs to be timely and effective. In my opinion, little and often is the best way. You don't need to make a big statement and then nothing for weeks, because that just leaves people feeling uninformed, really uncertain. If they are informed, they will stay on side. If you forget to speak to them, you just may lose them forever. So that's why we think communication is a key pillar of resilience and why we need to invest time to really get it right.
The previous two slides don't count for anything if you don't believe you can deliver on them. So some self-belief is crucial. It's easy to say have self-belief, but much harder to develop in practice. There's a lot of literature on developing self-belief, but a few highlights that we've seen work are keeping a list of your past successes and accomplishments, seeking and acting on feedback, taking small steps. And there's a great anecdote from the SAS about making your bed first thing in the morning. That way, whatever else happens that day, you've achieved something and you have a freshly made bed to get into at night. And knowing that self-belief is a habit, it takes up to 30 days to develop new habits. So just keep going. There's a fine line between arrogance and self-belief. We think the latter means knowing and playing to your strengths, and more importantly, knowing your weaknesses. Knowing those areas where you aren't as strong will enable you to build a team around you to assist through those times. When we think of a team, I suspect everyone defaults to thinking about those within the organisation. Don't forget your external team that you can build around you, including coaches, mentors, lawyers, bankers, accountants, fellow business professionals, this community here. So some belief that you can do this will help you to put the business plan and the communication strategy in place. It will also help you engage the people you employ and share the vision that will get you through some unpredictable times.
And our final pillar is purpose. You need to understand why you are doing this. Why do you turn up for work every day? And why do your team turn up every day? And if you understand that, it really underpins everything that you do. It will be the culture of your business, whether you are a sole trader working alone or a large business employing lots of people. Culture is hard to achieve and maintain remotely. It's the beat of the drum. It's the how we do things around here. And I think we all recognise that money is not the motivator for most people anymore. If you can tap into a belief that people have, they will go the extra mile for you, and you will unlock the discretionary effort that will really help you move your business forwards. I think we need to step back and acknowledge that we have all faced challenges, and the way we adapted has varied, but we all did it in some way, and we will all continue to. And that was because you had a purpose for your business and you just didn't give up. Ian.
Right, thank you. Becky, you were worried there, weren't you?
I was. It was very dark for a moment.
Yeah, no, I was there. I was there. No, thank you, Becky. Thank you, Graham, for that presentation. That slide there is just to reflect on the 4 main points that came across this morning. Having a plan, looking at the short term, but also thinking about the long term. Communication, Becky, I like the expression little and often. I thought that was very good. Self-belief, Graham. I never knew you were in the SAS, but I learned something new every day. So that was good. And purpose. And, you know, the expression, you know, unlocking that you know, discretionary effort, which is really good. What I think we're now going to do, everyone, is we're now going to go off into the breakout room. So in a moment, you'll get a little pop-up message, which I think you'll click on, and then you'll be transported into your breakout rooms with some other people. When you are in those rooms, please turn on your cameras if you wish to, but certainly turn on your mics, and then have a discussion about the question which is on the screen at the moment. You know, which pillar that we covered this morning do you consider to be the most important, and how will you implement it? You'll be in the breakout rooms for 15 minutes. And what I'd like you to do, as I said at the start, is nominate a spokesperson. And for that spokesperson to remember the room number they are in. And then when we come back in 15 minutes, I'll go round all the rooms and just ask for a concise, perhaps a very concise feedback comment, because we, you know, are conscious that we need to finish at 11. So, you know, if someone does go on for 5 minutes, I think our BD department will step in and mute you. So we are looking for a concise comment, and then we can share that with everyone. So hopefully everyone is comfortable with that. So I'm now waiting for our BD team to send the link so people can click the button and go off into their respective rooms. So happy breakout, everyone. Right, okay. So just a reminder, when people come back in, it would be great if they could turn their cameras off and their mics off, and then we'll go round to each room, and hopefully people will remember what room they were in and who the spokesperson was. And it'd be great just to hear from the spokesperson, summarising very briefly, you know, the best part or top tip that has come out about the pillars of resilience, and maybe what's the most important one, and what are they going to do, or what have they done already. Right, okay, so I could mix it up and be random, but I think that would be unfair. So I think we'll start with room 1. So the spokesperson for room 1, if you would care to turn on your mic and your camera.
So that was my room, Ian, and it will be David from Ascot Lloyd.
Okay. Hello, David.
Excellent. Somebody just needs to unmute me.
We can hear you.
You can. Fab.
Yes.
Excellent. So if you can't hear me, see me, I'll just crack on anyway. I think someone's turned the camera off. So we came up with that of the 4. We thought communication was the key one. You know, both internally and externally, we've been acquiring firms as a company, even over the period that we've gone through. And the important thing for us has been the communication. So not just our new colleagues and employees who we've taken on, but making sure that they feel that actually it was the right decision and the right thing to do over the period, but also our clients and our new clients, and making sure that they feel actually in the uncertain times that we're in, you know, the people who are looking after them and dealing with them has remained the same. And that has been all about communication and the importance of actually making sure our clients are confident, as well as I say, our employees, about the service and standards that they'll expect from Ascot Lloyd.
Excellent. Thank you, David. So communication up there, totally agree. Excellent. Thank you for that, David. So if you'd like to turn your camera off and your mic off, we'll then go to room 2, but thank you for your comments. So room 2 was my room, and I think Chris Perry is the spokesperson there. So come in, Chris.
Good morning. So we had a fairly varied conversation, but a number of us focused particularly on sort of the purpose and direction, and then the communication of that purpose and direction. So for us, although we kept active and open as a business in many respects, we did shut production for a brief period, and actually it allowed the leadership team and myself a little bit of thinking space in terms of where we were heading, why we were here, and what we were trying to achieve. And that's opened up some new opportunities. We're starting the process with an acquisition of a European competitor at the present point in time, partly Brexit related, but also just the overall growth of the business. I think one of the most significant things after purpose and direction was very much about communication, and making sure that we are open and communicating very much with the business and our customer base as well.
Okay, thank you, Chris. No, so, you know, the purpose, actually having some time. So lockdown sort of forced you to have a bit of free time, and you've thought about it, and, you know, you've got a new plan coming out of it, which is excellent. Okay, thank you, Chris. I'll let you turn your mic and camera off, and we'll go to room 3 and the spokesperson for room 3. This will be a surprise.
I was in room 3, and Elizabeth Pearce is going to be our spokesperson.
All right, Elizabeth.
There she is.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. We had some interesting discussions. We started out with communication as one of the key pillars, and the significance of keeping everybody informed, particularly customers. But we then got on to the planning and the critical part of delivering the plan. But people think about plans at different levels, so I think we need to separate out strategic plans from operational plans. But the view was that if the strategic plan is done, then everything else falls out from that. So the right communication and part of the self-belief as well, I guess. We talked then a little bit about purpose, and Chris spoke about purchasing and reducing costs across the business. But in my personal experience, having the right strategic plan is what will help you build on, but also to continue to look at the wider environment, because COVID isn't the only issue that businesses are having to deal with. We've got Brexit coming closer in terms of impact on our businesses, but in the longer term, other areas like sustainability, waste management, they're all things that are going to impact on us, and we need to be taking those all into account and then building and delivering our strategic plans from there.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. So strategic plan was, you know, the point that came out loud and strong there. Right, so room 4, the spokesperson for room 4. Introduce
John and Sam's room.
That was
This
me.
is Ollie. Yeah.
Ollie,
so,
hello.
hello. We essentially looked very briefly towards the end of the session on identifying that self-belief was the key thing, but it was such a key thing that we wouldn't be here in the first place if we didn't all have it. And so we actually originally identified communication, as many others have. And one of the things we found interesting was the comment of it being little and often. I think many of us found that there was a huge amount of communication and messaging that's going out from everyone, so much so that it can be so distracting that that you don't actually get any work done because you're too busy reading superfluous emails from various people that some have relevance, some really don't. And so actually we found that balance and relevance were almost more important, and whether that's externally or internally, so that people can actually get the work done in the first place. Having said that, touch points were really important and gave some form of balance to that loss of the water cooler moment, and gave some form of communication, but also use of Teams, particularly with juniors, so that they felt that there was somebody there that they could easily speak to rather than having to make a phone call, which is a bit of a sort of barrier in itself to have to communicate. Good quality communications really comes back to balance and relevance, but also different mediums of communication. Clearly we're all different, and we work better with audio visual or just audio, or however you communicate. Some work better on something as informal as WhatsApp, but if you're, it takes time to type. So there are pros and cons with all sorts of different ones, and actually having an array of different things means that people can use the one that fits them the best.
Yeah. No, Ollie, I'm going to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I'm just conscious of time, and everyone needs to.
Yeah, of course. That's us. Perfectly done at the right time.
Thank you, Ollie. So communication, little and often, and I'm with you. When you get a piece of communication that is 5 pages long, your heart sinks, and we're all very busy, and we just want the actions summarised quite concisely. Right. Thank you, Ollie. Let's move on to room 5. So the spokesperson for room 5.
That was me.
Hello, Eddie. How are you?
Hi. Yeah, doing well. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah. No. Very good. So Eddie, what did you have to feedback for us this morning?
So we sort of had 2 tied, planning and communication. We started off with planning, saying you need to have a plan. It needs to be quite adaptable. You need to be able to pivot your plan depending on what government announcements there are, what regulations change and things like that. And then we also said, if you've got a really strong plan but don't communicate it, doesn't mean anything, does it? So communication then sort of pretty much tied up with planning as being equally as important. We also discussed that potentially communication is more important in the professional services industry, so we accountants and lawyers, whereas potentially in the industry I'm in at the moment with hotels and restaurants, having a plan depending on what decisions the government makes and how that affects your industry is potentially more important. So yeah, that's where we got to.
No, that's good, Eddie. So I'm sure we've all been there. We've all done a plan, and then it's left on the computer or in your desk drawer, and you never look at it again, and you think all that time and effort, well, what's the point of doing it? So no, very good. And I was going to say, where are you, Eddie? You've got some interesting boxes behind you.
Yeah, I'm essentially sat in a storeroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Eddie. Thanks for your input. Okay. We'll now go to room number 6. Room number 6. So who's the spokesperson for room number 6?
Ian, it's me. It's Giles.
Ah, Giles. Yeah. So you're going to keep this brief, Giles?
I'm going to keep it brief.
Excellent.
We had eloquent and passionate advocates for all 4, actually, and I'm just communication has been probably the most sort of the newest, biggest challenge, and planning needs to be flexible, and people talking about self-belief as well, and sometimes you need to fake it a bit as a leader to pull people through. You need to show it even if you don't always have it, but actually we were very keen on purpose, because with all the change, without purpose, without knowing your purpose, that you're not going to pull through. That's the thing that's going to pull you through times of uncertainty and flexible and things changing. Know your purpose, and it's the time for an organisation to really know their purpose. For instance, is it passion for people, and stick with it and pull through.
There's an interesting book. I'm sure many people have heard James Collins and Good to Great, and they refer to the hedgehog concept, i.e. what are you good at? What do you need to do time and time again, Giles? So purpose and stick to it. Thank you very much, Giles. So that was Giles from room 6. We'll now call in the spokesperson for room 7.
There's a bit of a change here, so it might be a bit confusing from this point. So this is Kerry and Dominic's room.
Right. Here we go. So room 7 spokesperson, who is going to speak to me? It's Kerry Ann.
Hello, sorry.
And you're
I
on
thought I was
holiday.
late, but yes, I am on holiday.
Right. So Carrie-Anne, what happened in your room?
In our room, we had a really good debate as well. We kind of went through all of the pillars, the same as the other teams. So planning, communication, self-belief. Self-belief was one really important to us as well, but we did come back to having a plan. If you don't have a plan, and if you don't know where you're trying to get to, then, you know, it all falls down. So I'd say that our one that we want to push most is planning. And I think one of the other teams said about pivoting and adapting, and that's really important. So as long as you've got that base plan, but then you're able to change that as and when needed, then that's the best way forward. So that was us.
Thank you very much, Carrie-Anne. Thank you. 2 to go. The penultimate one is room 8.
Another change here. So this was Bruce's room now.
This is Bruce Masson, our agricultural expert, partner. This.
No, that's me. Sorry, we were room 10, so that threw me a little bit there. But
Tracy, hello.
Hi there, Ian. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. So yeah, we had a really good discussion, and ours centred on communication. Essentially, communicating with clients, you know, communicating with suppliers, communicating with our own staff. Essentially, in the business that I'm in, it's communicating with my clients' staff as well. And we found that, you know, delivering emails, whether it was sort of online information via apps, it was signposting, you know, sending people to platforms. The whole communication was around, you know, being flexible and making sure that you could deliver on numerous formats, so everybody, you know, could view the information they needed to view. So that was a big part of our discussion. How quickly we've adapted. So, you know, are we picking up the phone as much, or are we sending an email for a Zoom meeting? We're all getting really comfortable now on Zoom.
Yeah.
You know, it is adapting, it's being adaptable, and, you know, tailoring what you need to do. So very much around the communication. But then we did also then start to veer into planning. So, you know, we've all, hopefully, many of us had started to plan for a return to work. And then, of course, the you know, information's changed. Mm-hmm. So our planning has to be adaptable. And then again, that comes back to communication. So you might be planning for one thing and communicating in that way, and then everything, you know, turns around and, you know, another look at the plan, adapt and communicate again. So I think that summarises our session.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Thank you. Right, I think that now is the end of the feedback. I think we've covered all rooms. So thank you for that. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the breakout rooms. And I hope you enjoyed the feedback session at the end. I think that was really good. I enjoyed it. It was nice seeing people and hearing what went on in the different rooms. Right, so we said we were going to finish at 11 and we're on course to do that. So probably it's time to wrap up. So I just wanted to thank Becky and Graham for today's presentation. I think it was really good and thought-provoking, and from the sounds of the breakout groups, I'm sure there are at least 1 or 2 points that people can take away. So thank you, Becky, and thank you, Graham.
Thanks, Ian.
You're welcome.
No problem. And thank you to our BD team for making the event happen. So Amy, Lizzie, Fran and Carrie-Anne, that's all gone very smoothly today, and the breakout rooms worked very, very well. And a big thank you for everyone who's logged on this morning and listened. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll send out a feedback request shortly. We'd love to hear what you thought of this morning, how you thought about the breakout rooms and the networking opportunity. You know, we'd like to know, because we'd like to do better next time. And also we'll ask you for ideas for future brunches and what topics you may wish us to cover. And when we get all the feedback, we'll put everyone's name into a hat and we'll pull one out, and they will either win a bottle of wine or a Larking Gown coffee cup and a coffee from Paddy and Scott. So there's an incentive for you to feed back to us. If you'd like to talk to Becky or Graham about resilience, or any one of us, or any one of Larkin Gowan's experts on business and future plans, then please, get in touch. We'd love to catch up, whether face-to-face or virtually. Right, I think looking at the time, we have finished on budget at 11 o'clock due to my great time control, as you
it's unheard of.
Yeah, so at this point, I just left really to wish everyone a good morning. So it's goodbye from Becky.
Goodbye, thank you.
It's adios from Graham.
Adios.
And it's goodbye from me. See everyone soon. Thank you very much. Have a great morning.